Next one is sort of totally different topic, but it's to deal with the UCI's stance on equipment and changing equipment and changing technology. I really just wanted to give you a couple of examples. One was the specialized ship, which was legal, then all of a sudden became not legal after being used in races for a while. All of a sudden, at least the appearance was all of a sudden a condor shows up at the line and nope, can't use it anymore. Another example was, and this is one I've personally seen, is clip-on bars for time trials. I've been at events, both track and road, where the riders have to go before commissary. They have to sit on their bike and show how they're sitting. And at times they're told, well, if you hold your bars in one position, you're okay, but if you shift the way you hold your hands, then you're not okay. And they're putting white pieces of tape on the bars and saying, you know, if we can't see the white tape when you ride by us, then you're disqualified. Mm-hmm. And that actually happened at the Track Worlds this year. And it's frustrating for the riders. It's frustrating for the teams. It's frustrating for the companies who sort of will invest and build technology and sponsor riders and teams. And then when they get to the point where they're actually going to sell it and make some money back, all of a sudden, well, now it's not legal anymore. And I guess my main question from these examples is the UCI seems to be having difficulty communicating what it is their actual intentions are with these rules. Mm-hmm. They seem to be sort of say, well, you know, we're going in a certain direction, but we can't quite articulate it. And therefore it's making it very difficult for all the teams and manufacturers and so on to, you know, to deal with it. And I'm just wondering, you know, what the UCI is trying to do, mm-hmm. And if you're aware that there's this problem.
Yeah. Some of what you say I would accept, but a lot of what you say I wouldn't accept at all. The rules are quite clear, and the rules are there. Now, they're not quite clear to me because I'm not an engineer and I don't read rules. You know, when I read the rules, I don't understand them because you need to be an engineer to understand them. But the bike manufacturers understand the rules very well. And what has been happening here is that you got to go back to the Lugano Charter in 2000, and that's where these rules were created. And the rules whereby, you know, the philosophy whereby cycling is a sport which is dictated by the human endeavour, by the body, by the athlete itself, and the bicycle should not be an integral part of it, or it should not dictate to the athlete, you know, the result or anything like that. It should be the athlete dictate the result. From that philosophy came the rules that were made in 2000, and they haven't changed since. The rules have been the same since 2000. They haven't changed. Now, you know, we talk about 3-1-1 and all these different mm-hmm. percentages, which I don't understand. But the rules are they certainly haven't changed. They've been there since 2000. We've had no trouble with them in 2001, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. As we got through the last couple of years, because the bicycle business is doing so well, because the marketeers are in there, and the bikes, you know, the bike business is driven by the market, and the marketeers, you know, the people from the marketing departments of the bike manufacturers want to produce every year new models and new this, that and the other to put into the market and so forth. And what they've done is they've gone outside the rules and produced bikes which were never acceptable in the rules. The Shift bike is the example. The Shift was never legal. What we noticed, and this is I would admit a fault of the UCI from the point of view that over the last couple of years, because everything was going well in 2001, 2, 3, 4, everybody was working within the rules. Over the last 2 years, the commissaries became a little bit lax, and they felt this was going to continue. And then as soon as there was a bit of laxness there, the manufacturers jumped in and started going outside the rules. And where we noticed it first was with the Shiv in the Tour de France last year, with Cancellara used a bike which was way outside the rules in 3 different areas. And we said, it's time, we then had discussions internally, said it's time we called a halt. We started doing some study on this, studying what's out there in the bike, studying which bikes are legal and are there bikes out there which are illegal, and if so, we'll do something about it. So in October, we decided to write to the teams, write to the manufacturers and say, you know, you've pushed the limit too far, now get back in, get your house back in order and get back in order. In relation to, we had discussions with Specialized, and we had a system in place at the time, over the past several years, where we had an advisor, or, you know, a material expert, so to speak, who the manufacturers would go to with the bikes and present the bikes. And what was tending to happen was that, and then the Specialized case was I forget the exact details of it, but We asked them for details of that particular bike, and they said, brought us a bike and said, here's a frame, and they brought it to Belgium to our specialist up there, consultant, and says, here's the frame, this is the bike. Now, when you look at a frame, no matter what sort of an engineer's eye you've got, you cannot see exactly if it's within the proportions it's meant to be. The only way you can do that is to see the actual design drawings, because then you see the measurements and everything, clearly. And so he said, well, it looks okay. He said, it looks okay to me, but we want to see the design drawings. And the design drawings came to us at the end of January this year, or no, it was maybe early February. Contador wanted to use that bike at the end of February. We, within a week, we got back onto Specialized and told them that bike is out of order, and you're not going to be allowed to race on it this year. They knew for already 2 or 3 months, and they still hadn't given Contador a new bike up to the day before the time trial. It wasn't their fault, it was Specialized fault. They knew what they were doing, and they knew they were coming up against a deadline that Contador was not going to be allowed to ride the Tour de Algarve with that particular bike, and so they produced an old bike and gave it to him on the day of the time trial. So it's not a question that the UCI doesn't know where it's going. The UCI's rules are quite clear. It's the manufacturers who are trying to push the limits and go beyond the limits to create new models and this and your new aerodynamics and all that type of thing into the bike, and put aerodynamics into the frame, which are not allowed because the Lugano Charter works against going over the top with aerodynamics and the like. So that's one aspect of it. In relation to the bars and so forth, I can't really comment on the tape and this and the other. I mean, again, all I can say is that different commissaires have different interpretations of how rules should be in this and the other. I do know we had a problem with a bar manufacturer, all right, and we decided one particular type of bars was banned after it had been made, and the manufacturer had invested money in it and so forth, but he developed a bar which was outside the regulations, and we're told you can't use them, and so now the teams they're all using a similar type bar, which is, I don't know if it's a similar type, but ergonomically or materially it's the same style of bar as which is acceptable. So I think now what we're doing for the future, I did realize that we don't have a hugely close relationship with the industry, and that's something that I set out to rectify. I went specifically to Taiwan in March to go to the Taiwan show. I asked them to make a presentation to the bike manufacturers that were there, and as a first step, more or less, I did that, and I spoke to quite a large number of them there, all the main manufacturers there, representative of them. I gave them a presentation on the UCI, a presentation on what our philosophy was, the Lugano Charter, and where these problems are arising with frames and this and the other, and that we were looking at a better solution for the future, so that the manufacturers could be clearer in the future with us. We've moved on from there. We also will be going to Friedrichshafen, which is in the beginning of September, to the bike. UCI will be represented there. We'll do likewise. We'll present to them then what our plan is for the future. And our plan for the future is to work with the University of Lausanne, which is the section of it is the EPFL, which is recognised. The University of Lausanne is I think it's number 8 ranked university in the world. But there's a section in there which is one of the most advanced sections in terms of modern technology and so forth, and nanotechnology and all that type of thing. And we're going to have a collaboration with them whereby they can control and work with the bike manufacturers to make sure that what's being produced is produced within the regulations. They are the ones, for instance, who built the Alinghi boat. So they know all about that, carbon fibre and so forth. Mm-hmm. They're also, the EPFL is also the same section of Lausanne University that FINA came to when they had a problem with their swimsuits, and they did all the testing for FINA and so forth, and came up with FINA and developed the final regulations for FINA, which FINA have implemented now. So they're very far advanced in well capable looking at working with the UCI in new material and in monitoring new material and monitoring nanotechnology and monitoring, like for instance, they're the ones who provided us with the scanner, who went and sought and found the scanner that we brought into the Tour de France this year to ensure there was no motors in bikes and so forth. Okay. Something which we felt had never happened anyway. But in order to calm the waters and to make sure everybody was quite clear, we used the scanner, and it was they that found it for us and worked with us in developing how we use it and so forth on the tour. So I think going forward, it will become easier, and we want a better relationship with the manufacturers, because also from our point of view, we are as the international body trying to develop the sport. We're trying to globalize the sport and so forth, and if we do, the beneficiaries of that are the bike manufacturers, because we're making the sport bigger all around the world, and they're the ones who are going to be selling more bikes. So it's in their interest to work closely with us, and it's in our interest to work closely with them. But once they understand the philosophy, and I think they do, and the fact, I've discussed this with many of them, they understand the Lugano Charter, they understand what our philosophy is, and they're prepared to work within it. And they realise now that, they cannot let their engineers or their marketing people continue to design and design and design, because, there is a line there that you can't cross over.